My name is Alistair Chambers. I am doing a firewall comparison project. I'll be testing 5 firewalls. Some of them are stateful, some of them are stateless. Stateless means they're not aware of any patterns, and they can block or deny traffic based on source and destination IP address. Stateful firewall, on the other hand, they are aware of certain patterns because they hold a memory. Therefore, they can be on large network and very busy network. They can have an impact on that particular router. But in my case, I won't be generating a lot of traffic, so I won't be able to show the difference in terms of the effect that they'll have on the processor of the router. The firewalls include Cisco, Ubuntu, Virus, ClearOS, pfSense, and I'll run a series of tests on each network. Therefore, all 5 firewalls would be on a separate network by themselves. So I'll have 5 test network, and they would include an attacker on one side and the target on the other side, and that router in the middle. And I'll run a set number of tests with firewall disabled, firewall followed by firewall enabled. I'll use Wireshark, I'll use NetStat to help show what's going on. NetStat in particular will show the total number of packets received on the target, and I'll run that command before and after every test. Some of the tests that I'll perform would be ping or ICMP test. I'll do an Nmap scan. I'll try to access the FTP server. On the target, I'll try to access the target through SSH. I'll try to access the Apache server through HTTP port 80. I'll run an Exciter attack. I'll run hping, which is similar to ICMP, but it uses TCP instead. At the end of the test, I would try and recommend the firewall, which I think is best. And in my scenario that I describe in the project is for a business with a small business with medium to high risk. But this project isn't about necessarily recommending a firewall. More importantly, it's about answering the question I posed in my introductory section, which includes whether someone like myself with no experience can effectively set up and maintain a firewall for a small business with high risk. So basically, from my experience performing this test and the project on hand, I would honestly answer that question. I'll try and look at log files for the various firewalls and see how much is generated, even for the traffic that I'm generating. And when you talk about the business with high risk or medium to high risk, you got to include CIA in this with confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Because at the end of the day, the firewall is trying to restrict unauthorized access. And if someone gains access, they can possibly have access to confidentially secret reports or documents that they shouldn't have. And they can alter or play around with your personal details or stuff that they're not allowed to. And if it's a business, availability deals with, is the business up and running or is it down? With CIA, if any impact on these can lead to the company being fined, consumers lose faith in that particular company, the company can go bankrupt. So this is very serious and a big issue, important issue. This is my firewall project. I am looking at currently the Ubuntu router, as most of the tests them are going to be similar and the results them are going to be similar. I'm just going to be focusing on one file. I am currently looking at the target, and in particular the netstart tool. Netstart tool was used predominantly by me during this project because it gives, first of all, it's a network utility tool. You can use it to troubleshoot your network if you have connection issues. I'm currently on the attacker. I'm going to be pinging the target. Now on the target, if I run the netstart command, it should show that the total number of packets received on the attacker should increase from. I'm on the attacker. Trying to access the target through SSH. I've typed in the SSH command that I need, and it's asking me for the password, which is gserver. And if I type that in, I should get access. And there you go, I have access. I couldn't even. Now another tool that you can use to check and see what's going on is the Wireshark tool that is run on the target. If we filter the protocol, we can look at one of the packets in more detail. So that's the attacker's address. Now I'm back on the attacker. I'm going to try access the Apache server via port 80. And see, he says I have access. If you go back on the target, Wireshark should show that something went on again. Now I'm on the attacker side again. I'm going to try access the FTP server, and we shall see what happened. See, success, but then that is expected because there's no firewall active and any rule set up to block such attack. Now if we check, now we're looking at the Ubuntu router. I've created some rules to block port 80, which I was using to access the Apache server. Now I'm trying to SSH back into the target. Before I could have. Now it's unsuccessful. If you look on the target side, pull up netstart. Previous IP packet count total was 256. If we run it, it should be more or less be the same. If we go back on the attacker, it says connection timeout. I'm on the attacker side again. I'm trying to access the FTP server on the target, and as you can see, I have been connection issues, but that's expected. If I try to connect to the Apache server, also that tool is having. Now you're looking at the Ubuntu router. This. Now if you go back on the attacker and try ping the target, which I have, it shouldn't be successful because of the rule. If you view Wireshark on the target as well, it should show nothing. Now I'm trying to do a ping of the target. It is similar to ICMP, but you look at Wireshark on the target and it shows no evidence of such an attack went on because the attack didn't come through because it was blocked and dropped. top command was also run on the target, but no considerable increase in the processor use, because I wasn't generating a whole ton of traffic. In saying that, the opposite happened when I viewed the log files for the various firewalls. Even though I wasn't generating a whole ton of traffic, there were still several pages of logs that was generated. Or when you talk about computer security and you think about CIA confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I'm back on the attacker. I'm going to do an Nmap scan of the target. Nmap is basically a network scanning and host detection tool. As you can see, scanning the target. If we go on the target and look at Wireshark, you would see it detect that possible there was some scans done. And I was always told these different colors that you see highlighted in Wireshark is an indication of a possible attack that is going on. As you can see, it says ICMP, TCP, and if you look closely, it shows you, it's basically coming from one port, then you go into another port, which is another indication that it's an attack. If we go back on the attacker, for instance, some stuff highlighted here in green, it says TCP port 22 SSH is open. In order to help eliminate some of the information that Nmap or Nmap scan would give of the target, I created rules to block, for instance, because it detected port 80 was open and port 22, etc. I created rules to block or deny access to port 80, port 22, among others. Now, if we check Wireshark on the target to see if it did detect anything, you're looking at UFW, Ubuntu Router Firewall, and syslog in particular, and you can see it showing that UFW have blocked some activities that went on. For my particular project, I didn't really have an outside connection. I'm currently looking or working on device router, unlike the Ubuntu router. No way on PT9, the attacker. We're gonna SSH into the target and see asks for the password. Now we have access. If we view Wireshark on the attacker, it just detects that there was an SSH attempt of the target. Right, I'm currently looking at device router. We have created some rules to drop ICMP, stop access to port 80, to stop access to port 21, 22, and 23. So if we go back to the attacker, and as you can see, I'm trying to access the target via SSH, and nothing happening. If you look at Wireshark on the attacker, it shows you that there indeed an SSH attempt going on. As you can see, TCP retransmission request, and that happened because he cannot get access. Another indication that the rules are working, as you can see, it shows, for instance, on Wireshark on the attacker side, that the TCP connections or ICMP going on from the attacker's address to the target's address. And for instance, you say ICMP. One of the most important things to block on a network is ICMP and HPing. I showed ICMP was successfully blocked by the rules I created on the virus router. Now I'm gonna block hping. Hping uses TCP. So as you can see on the virus router, I did create some rules to show to block TCP itself, and that should block hping. It's very difficult using the virus router because it does not have a GUI, so it makes it quite difficult to configure. If we go back to the virus router, we can see some of the rules I created were to block TCP, access to port 21, port 22, port 23, you know, block, so basically blocking telnet, SSH, FTP access. So if I go to the, if we look at Wireshark and the attacker as well, it shows that there's an attack going on, a TCP attack. Basically, that's the protocol from the attacker, which is the source address to the destination address, which is the target.